So the Giants are 1 and...
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
Yep, thank you, LeBron. The Giants are 1 and 7 after 8 weeks of the first 8 weeks of the NFL season. They do have a Week 9 bye. Thank God I don't have to watch them this week. It is getting out of hand right now. There's a lot to get into, though. The Giants did play a game this week, surprisingly. A lot of off-the-field stuff I want to talk about. Some trades. The backup quarterback that I thought was going to be starting out of the bye, that does not look so promising anymore. For those who haven't heard, Lauletta was arrested earlier this morning, or probably yesterday morning when you're listening to this, for a traffic violation. So not sure what's going to happen with him. That's definitely not a promising thing. I'll try to get into that later as much as possible. We had the Eli Apple trade to New Orleans. We had the Damon Harrison trade to the Detroit Lions, and nothing happened today, surprisingly. I really expected Janoris Jenkins to not be a Giant after the deadline today, but that's the way it is. I guess they didn't get good enough of a deal, so I'll try to dive into that stuff and then go over the game a little bit. But, mostly for the game, it's just same shit, different week. Offense did nothing. Defense, I thought, played pretty well outside of the last Adrian Peterson run where I feel like they were just out of gas as usual. So, yeah, I'll get into that stuff, and let's get into it. So first, we'll get into the Eli Apple trade. I believe he was traded on Tuesday morning, right after the Monday Night Falcon game. That was about a week ago now. It's surprising. So, yeah, we traded Eli Apple for a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick. That was pretty surprising to get a 4th-rounder for Eli Apple. I remember the first Giants commentary I did was right before the draft, probably in April, something around there, March, April. And I said, what would I do in this offseason if I were the Giants? And I said I would try to trade Eli Apple for literally anything, and I was expecting like a 7th-round pick. So the fact that they were able to get a 4th-rounder for Eli Apple was pretty impressive. And I feel like Apple's one of those guys who, fans outside of the Giants feel like is a talented player and has, potential, but just doesn't have his head on straight. But, Apple was good the first 2 weeks of the season. Then I think he missed the next 2 weeks with injury, and then he's been inconsistent since coming back. And the Falcons were going after him on Monday night 2 weeks ago, and I don't know what kind of upside Apple has at this point. So he was called a cancer last year by Landon Collins, one of the leaders of this team, which is never a good sign. So if you can unload a guy like that for a 4th-round pick, I'm all for it, and get a 7th-round pick as well. Get your assets and help you in future trades, all that kind of stuff. But it's really unbelievable how a guy that Jerry Reese took, I think 3 years ago now, in the 1st round, pick number 11 I think it was, is already off the team. Eric Flowers is off the team. So many 1st-rounders. Justin Pugh. Who else do we have? Evan Ingram's been dropping everything, and these 1st-round picks that Jerry Reese has made are just looking terrible right now. The only good one's been Odell Beckham in the past 7 years. So the Giants are just really in a big hole right now with that kind of stuff. And they did pass on some good players after Eli Apple. So it is what it is. You got to live with it at this point, and hopefully make something out of that 4th-round pick. So also we traded Damon Harrison to the Detroit Lions. That was a surprising one. I didn't really, I wouldn't have been shocked if he was traded, but I didn't expect it to happen that early. A lot of fans were kind of pissed off that he was traded for only a 5th-round pick, but it makes sense if you think about it. The NFL is obviously a passing league now. I probably sound like Phil Simms when I say that. It's a passing league, but it is a passing league. So Damon Harrison's specialty is obviously being a run stuffer, probably the best in the business at that. But when it's a passing league and teams are throwing more than any time in NFL history, how much value does a run stopper bring to your team? I don't think that's worth more than a 4th or 5th-round pick. So the Giants probably got the right value for Harrison, and he's owed a good amount of money the next 2 years as well. I think in 2 seasons he's owed $9 million, so that comes off the books. That's always nice to have the extra flexibility. But yeah, I was surprised how much he was owed. So to get a 5th-rounder for him, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but when you think about it, he's a guy who's going to play, the first 2 downs. He's not a pass rusher. He's there to stop the run. And, apparently, according to Lions fans, he's already made an impact in their first game. You wouldn't know by watching it because Chris Carson went absolutely off against them this week. But the Lions' run defense has been really bad this year, so it was a trade that benefited them. And they just traded Golden Tate, so I really don't know what direction the team's going in right now. That was pretty confusing. You're either all in or you're all out. I don't know why they just, traded for one guy, then traded away another guy that was a big piece of our offense. But that's Detroit's problem, not ours. So, yeah, we get a 5th rounder for him, and I don't want to get into this, but actually, no, before that, I was surprised Janoris Jenkins was not traded. I mean, I don't know if the Giants, I'm sure they were receiving offers. I mean, there was reports coming out that the Chiefs were interested, the Patriots might have had interest, the Steelers had interest, and I predicted on Twitter, like, a week ago that he would go to Pittsburgh for like a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick. I forget what I said. Then sometime this morning I saw a tweet that Pittsburgh was kind of not looking for any additions at the cornerback position, so that kind of was a nail in the coffin there for the whole Janoris Jenkins, the Pittsburgh thing. But I'm surprised they didn't really unload him. I don't know why he's still on this team right now. There's really no purpose. I think Janoris is 28, 29 years old at this point, has a couple years left on his contract, and he's obviously not too interested in what's going on with the Giants right now. He doesn't seem like he wants to stay, and I think when they asked him about it, if he wants to be traded or not, he said, like, we'll see what happens, or whatever happens, some kind of quote like that. Never said he wants to stay, and I mean, we saw it last year when the Giants started playing really bad football before Janoris sat out the rest of the season with his ankle injury, I think it was, that his play really diminished on the field, and he's the kind of guy that's going to make business decisions. I mean, he's not going to, lay it all out on the field for a team that has 1 win and 7 losses. And, in a way that kind of frustrates you, but you got to understand it from his perspective as well. I mean, he is a guy who already got paid a lot of money, so you'd like to see him try harder. But, with the way the Giants are playing, he's obviously not going to play to his full potential. And Janoris was amazing in the season the Giants won 11 games because they were at least competitive that year, and Janoris Jenkins had his heart into it. And these last 2 seasons that he's been out on the field, Janoris has really not been too invested in what's been going on, and you can tell that his effort level has really decreased over the last few weeks, so I wish the Giants traded him, but I guess they weren't getting good enough offers. As I said, I would have taken a 5th round pick, but maybe they could trade him in the offseason. I have no idea, so we'll see what kind of effort he brings for the remaining 10 weeks or so for this season. So now the thing I didn't want to get to, and that's obviously the Kyle Lauletta story. It was funny. I'm sitting in my accounting class, bored out of my mind, of course, and I just checked Twitter, and I see a tweet that was like something Kyle Lauletta arrested, and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is this person talking about? So I'm thinking it's a joke. Scroll down a little more. Someone quote tweeted like, oh, that's a shame Lauletta had a real shot to start next week. And I'm like, is this shit real? And I look further. There it is. Kyle Lauletta is arrested for a traffic violation. I think on the Turnpike or something, which is a highway I can't stand myself. So I really can't blame the guy. But look, if I'm Kyle Lauletta, I'm definitely staying out of trouble, especially this week. This was a big week for you, Kyle. I don't know why you're committing traffic violations and that kind of stuff. It's just a shame. I mean, I really wanted to see what he could do for this team coming out of the bye and kind of prove to the people that said none of this is Eli's fault that maybe another quarterback can make some noise here and do something, but I would highly doubt at this point that he's going to start for this team out of the bye. I don't know what this does for him and his future with the Giants, but it can't be good. I don't think they're going to release him or anything like that, but I would say before this, his chances of starting were like literally 50-50. Now I would give him probably like a 10 to 15% chance of starting out of the bye. I just really don't see it happening at this point. So, when you have a quarterback, you want a leader, you want a guy to lead by example, and someone getting arrested and getting a traffic violation, all that kind of stuff is not what you want to see. It's unfortunate, but I have to admit the memes of Eli Manning dressed up as a cop absolutely had me dying today. If you guys haven't seen him, I mean, I'm sure you've seen him if you follow the Giants Twitter accounts, even Instagram accounts, I guess there was like a Saturday Night Live scene or some kind of thing, commercial where Eli Manning is in a like cop suit and has like a fake mustache, all that kind of stuff. And I saw one meme that had like Kyle Lauletta had his face on a car, not on a car, but as a guy sitting in a car, and Eli Manning's face was on the cop, and it was just hilarious. And people were saying how Eli Manning had this whole thing set up. Obviously not true, but I just found that pretty funny. So any way to make jokes out of this kind of shitty situation, I'm all for it. So it sucks. I hope the Giants give Kyle a chance. I don't expect it to be next week now. Not next week, 2 weeks. Whenever we play next week, that would be week 10. Don't know who we play week 10. I'm not even looking forward yet. So I'm just going to enjoy this week off, just enjoy some fantasy football, and, my teams in that suck too, so hopefully I can get some wins there. But yeah, let's get into the game now. We played the Redskins on Sunday, 1 o'clock game, MetLife Stadium. Shit, you might as well call it Jet Life at this point, because the Giants are literally the worst team in the NFL the last 2 years. I was never a Jet Life person, but, you might as well say it at this point. But yeah, the defense I don't think they were that bad for losing 2 starters, one really key starter in Damon Harrison. And yeah, Harrison would have helped keep Adrian Peterson in check this week, who I believe had like 25 carries and 125 yards and something crazy like that. Snacks would have helped that for sure. I don't think the loss of Eli Apple impacted them too much, but no Eli Apple means more BW Webb, and that's something I don't want to see, but that's what happens when you trade someone. You don't have any depth at your positions. Losing Sam Beal before the season started was just a killer, and Sam Beal was a rookie from the supplementary draft or something, I think it's called, and he was supposed to be a good player for us, make an impact, but I think he tore something, shoulder, something like that, I have no idea, but he was out for the season before training camp like he even started. And then the Giants were in a position that if they lost any cornerbacks, that they would be really screwed, because outside of Janoris Jenkins, what reliable cornerbacks did they have? I really didn't trust Eli Apple coming into the season, and he kind of looked like the same player he was last year, maybe a little improved, but that's still a below average corner in this league. And now you have a Janoris Jenkins who isn't trying, and he's across from BW Webb and a bunch of just no-name safeties, and cornerbacks. You got safety Curtis Riley, who can't take a right angle to a deep ball or a run play. I don't know what kind of angles this guy takes that lets up big plays, but he's been horrendous at it all year. Curtis Riley delivers some good hits, I'll give him that, but his routes to tackling are just horrendous at times, so that's really unfortunate. So I'm going to read the game notes I made. So first I said Snacks' presence was missed. Of course, Adrian Peterson. These are the official stats. 26 carries, 149 yards. I said 125 before. I was pretty off on that. 149 yards and a touchdown. Did have a receiving touchdown as well. I'll get back to that later. Giants throwing short of the sticks on 3rd down. We saw an example with it earlier. I think they threw to Benny Fowler on like a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. They threw 2-3 yards short of the sticks. Didn't get it, of course, and just the typical Giants offense right there. Missed tackles. That's the Adrian Peterson receiving touchdown comes to mind, where Adrian Peterson caught the ball, and I'm just gonna say this. I don't think Peterson's had a receiving touchdown since 2012 or 2013. The broadcast said so. Kind of rare to see that, but of course the Giants would be the team to give it up. There was a linebacker who missed a tackle right when AP caught the ball and was able to just jog in for a touchdown after that. Next, I have Odell Beckham once again looked incredible. 8 catches for 136 yards. Did not find the end zone, unfortunately, but this offense as a whole can't find the end zone unless it's in the final 10 seconds of a game. But yeah, for the people that wanted Odell Beckham traded or whatever, I listen to a lot of WFAN, as I always say, and it seems like all the older people call in and say, yeah, you gotta trade this Beckham guy, get 2 first-round picks for him. First of all, who's trading 2 first-round picks for Odell? Because I don't think teams are gonna do that. He literally just signed here 2 months ago. It's like a 5-year, $90 million contract with a lot of guaranteed money, so why are you trading him? But also, I don't think Odell's handling the situation correctly, how he's saying, this is where I'm at, and in terms of whether he wants to be here or not. So I don't think he's answering those questions the right way. But you got to understand where Odell's coming from. As I said, he's one of the longest tenured Giants at this point. I think he's been around this is his 5th year. And he's only been a part of 1 winning season and has been putting up historic seasons every year he's been here and every time he's been healthy. He's broken pretty much every record for a guy that's played the amount of games he's played and has been such a difference maker for this franchise. And just imagine not having Odell. We saw it last year. How pitiful were the Giants without Odell Beckham last year? I understand there were more injuries than just him, but when he's on the field, he makes such a difference. And I could single-handedly well, not I can single-handedly, but he single-handedly won them a lot of games in that 2016 season where they won 11 games. I mean, that Ravens game comes to mind where he had like a 220 receiving yards and a couple touchdowns. The Cowboy game comes to mind where he took that slant and ran it 60-something yards to the house, and I think the Giants won that game 10-3. And I'm sure there's many other examples of it, but he's such a difference maker for this team, so it sucks that people continuously bash him for the antics he pulls. And I mean, yeah, he should be more mature, but the guy cares. I mean, that's something I want to see out of a player. I don't want a guy who just goes back to the bench and just, laughs and is having a good time when your team's getting your ass kicked. I want a guy who shows emotion and actually cares that he's losing. Eli Manning throws 2 dumb interceptions, not just regular interceptions. One of them was in the red zone. Tried to throw a slant to Odell Beckham, and I think Beckham either stopped his route or was stopped by DJ Swearinger, and Swearinger just made a really nice interception. He's one of the better safeties in the league, so that's what happens. And then the second interception was insane. He literally just threw up a lollipop pass that felt like it was in the air for 10 seconds to Benny Fowler in double coverage. Benny Fowler, I don't think was on this roster 2 or 3 weeks ago. The only thing I remember Fowler from is from like week 1 3 years ago, catching like 2 or 3 touchdowns. That's the only thing I remember that guy for. I would not throw up the double coverage with Benny Fowler, but that's what Eli did, and it was literally like a basketball play. So the cornerback was boxing out Benny Fowler while the safety Swearinger just literally caught the ball. It was kind of like a fielding a punt, except it was an interception. It was kind of a funny play. Just a really stupid throw, and I'm all for throwing it deep. I always say that, but don't throw it to the side of the field where the safety's at, and especially to Benny Fowler of all people. There have been many times this year where Eli has had Odell in one-on-one and won't throw him the ball downfield, but nope, when there's double coverage on Benny Fowler, shit, I'll throw it over there. Interception, that's what happens. Dumb play. Eli was also sacked.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
7 times for a loss of 50 yards total. I think Eli is on pace to get sacked like 62 times this year. Believe he's at 31 right now. And that's insane. I mean, I don't know how many of those are his fault, how many of those are the O-line's fault. I don't want to go back and look, but even if I gave a number, I'm sure a lot of people, the Eli truthers, would argue me on that one. And I'm going to say it. I mean, I think half of these sacks could have been avoided. I think 3 of them, maybe 4, could have been avoided with a mobile quarterback. Not even a mobile quarterback. I don't know if you guys consider Alex Smith a mobile quarterback, but Alex Smith kept a lot of plays alive in this game with his legs. And not to say that Alex Smith's going to run for 100 yards, but he was able to stay on his feet, be nimble in the pocket, and was able to make plays, something Eli Manning can't do. Once Eli Manning takes his 3-step drop, that's where he's standing. It's literally like a statue. It's a statue scanning the field, and, as a defensive line, you got to get a little bit of pressure, and his feet get all jittery now, and he's not the same Eli that used to stand in there and take the hits. His feet get jittery. He stops looking down the field, looks for his check down. If his check down ain't there, then he's going down. That's really it. That's really all a defensive line has to do at this point in Eli's career. I also have Barkley had no running room. The Redskins' defense surprisingly has been really good this year, and that was an underrated aspect about them if you weren't keeping up. They improved today, getting HaHa Clinton-Dix from the Packers, so another good safety to pair up with Swearinger, so that's an even scarier defense now. But coming into last week, they had a really good defense, and our offensive line, when it came to Barkley running the ball, had no push whatsoever. I felt bad for Saquon. Of course, he was able to get it done in the receiving game a little bit. I don't have his stats right here, but I remember Barkley having a few catches for some decent gains. So the pressure was pretty good for our defensive line, but as I said, Smith's mobility was able to extend the play. I mean, there were a few times where you felt like Smith was going to be wrapped up, but he just made a nice play to a receiver running a drag route or something, and they were able to convert 3rd downs and all that kind of stuff, and that's something I wish we had, because it must be really nice, to have have your offensive line break down and your quarterback makes a play, and of course us Giants fans don't know about that, and that's the reason I want Lauletta to play, because he definitely has a lot more pocket mobility and even pocket awareness probably at this point than Eli Manning does. So of course the red zone and converting problems. So Eli had the red zone pick that I went over before. They had the situation when they were down 13-3 with like 5 minutes left, and they had to settle for a field goal. And then there was the time where it was a 4th and 2, I think it was, also in the 4th quarter, and Evan Ingram had a ball go right through his hands, so can't have that. I can't even blame Eli for that throw. That was a perfect throw. It just went right through Ingram's hands, who definitely has had some drop issues last year, and now this year it just wasn't as noticeable last year because he had more targets and was still putting up good numbers, but it was a problem last year. So also, I just want to touch on Pat Shurmur. I mean, people, once again, who call into the radio and all that kind of stuff say that Pat Shurmur's no good, he's going to get fired, blah, blah, blah. I don't think Pat Shurmur's been that bad this year, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but you know, anytime a team is 1-7 and it's a first-year coach, the first thing you want to say is, oh, the coach sucks, he needs to get fired. But, like, I don't think Shurmur's been that bad. I really don't. It's been mostly on the players. I mean, if this team had a good quarterback and just an average offensive line, I think this Giants team would have been pretty damn good this year. It's just that those two weaknesses are weaknesses that you cannot have in this league. As I said, it's a passing league. You need to have a good quarterback. You need to have a pretty good offensive line. It doesn't need to be spectacular, but you need to have a pretty good offensive line. Deshaun Watson has a shitty offensive line. His team's pretty good. They won 5 straight. Russell Wilson has a shitty offensive line. His team's doing pretty well as well. So, you know, I mean, there's situations like I don't even think Andy Dalton's line's that good. They have Bobby Hart starting, and Giants fans remember Bobby Hart. I think he's their starting like right tackle or something. And, you know, the Bengals offense is still able to put up points. So, you know, I think this definitely needs to be Eli's last season. I've said it multiple times, and I've kind of noticed it since week 2 of the Dallas game, where it just felt too much like last year. And, you know, ever since that Thursday night Eagle game, that was the final straw for me on Eli Manning. I mean, you know, the Giants need to pull the plug at some point because it's just unwatchable at this point, and the guy is nowhere near where he used to be. And that's really it. I mean, I love the guy, but it's just, you're 37, your time is up, and father time has finally caught up. So it is what it is. So I have Aldrich Rosas continues to shine. He has made every field goal, I think, except for one this year. That's the one on Thursday night where he was short, and I think that was mostly due to his injury at the time. So he's been phenomenal this year. I did not expect that at all. The Giants had a running into the kicker penalty on a punt, where the punter, what's his name, Tress Way, was acting all dramatic and limping off the field, and then comes back the next possession and has his longest punt of the year. So I really don't understand how the logic matches up there. I guess he was kind of faking that injury a little bit. But, you know, you can't have that kind of stuff. I think the broadcast said it. You have to take a better route to block a punt. You can't just run straight into the guy, and if you're going to miss the ball, then you're screwed. Your helmet goes into his leg, and then there's your 5-yard penalty, and Redskins get a new set of downs. So I think the Giants still stopped them on that possession as well, the Giants defense, who did a really good job. I mean, I have it written down here. The Redskins offense was held to only 13 points through 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter until Adrian Peterson ripped off his big run. So I thought the Giants defense did really well, as I said, for losing 2 of their starters. And, you know, it might not be a popular opinion, but that's just what I saw. I mean, you know, the Redskins offense has not been good this year by any means, so I don't want to give them too much credit, but it's a solid team. You know, the Redskins are now 5-2, I think, surprisingly. So you got to give credit where credit is due. So I thought the defense wasn't too bad. And before I log off here, I mean, I want to talk about the quarterback situation for next year, potentially. Of course, what I want is Justin Herbert, and I've been saying it for weeks now. But in the event that Herbert were to not declare for the draft this year or something like that, or maybe the Raiders take him before us, or, you know, some kind of scenario like that, you know, I want to know your guys' opinion on, you know, a thought that I have. I'm sure many other people have the same thought about, you know, the Giants drafting Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. I don't know if he would be a first-round pick. I don't think he would be, but not sure where his stock will end up at the end of the year. So you have a guy like Haskins, and then you sign Teddy Bridgewater, but maybe, or Jacoby Brissett, maybe Jameis Winston, who is probably not going to re-sign with the Buccaneers at this point. So if you could have Haskins and one of those 3 guys, you know, who would you want? You know, Kyle Lauletta is still going to be here next year. I don't know what kind of faith the Giants have in him at this point, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason, especially if they don't land Herbert, but that's definitely what you want. and I really hope they get him. But worst case scenario, the Giants need to be prepared for a entering quarterback hell, as people say. And I think a good plan would be to sign a guy like Bridgewater, who's worked with Sherman before. And Bridgewater, surprisingly, is only like 26 years old still, maybe 25. So yeah, he's really not that old. Bringing in a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who had some success with the Colts last year, and they didn't have a good roster at all. So I think they only won like 3 or 4 games the whole year, but could have been a lot worse with Scott Tolzien or whoever they had before him. that was atrocious. But who else did I mention? Jameis Winston. I mean, Winston's a talented player. He just makes the dumbest decisions. I mean, some of the throws he made in the Bengal game this week were just so bad. I mean, it looked like he's never played quarterback before. And there are games where Winston looks unbelievable, so got to work on that consistency. I hope that Marcus Mariota is somehow let go by the Titans this year, but I don't see that happening. I like Mariota. I just feel like he's injured a lot, and if you get a healthy Mariota, that's a pretty damn good player. But I don't expect him to be let go by the Titans. I guess we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, the Giants are now 1-7, and that sucks. I didn't expect it. As I said in the beginning of the year, I had the Giants going 8-8, so the Giants would have to go 7-1 to fulfill my my prediction. And I really wanted to say 7-9 before that, and I didn't want to trigger too many people and get blown up in the comments about it. But I probably should have said 7-9. But even 7-9 at this point is a little too generous. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but especially with the NFC East not being good this year, this would have been a nice year to be a competitive team, but it is what it is. So, as you see on the screen, you can follow my Twitter. It's at Mike_NYY, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks. If you guys want me to do like a commentary that's focused more on the off season, during the bye week, then I can definitely do that. Just let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. I'll map out some predictions and some possible quarterback scenarios that we can approach in the off season, and I can do that kind of stuff. So if you guys want that, just let me know. And as I said, I uploaded this late because I wanted to see what happened in the trade deadline. And look, nothing happened, so I just wasted 24 hours of my time and could have just done it on Sunday night. So I apologize for that, but I didn't want to upload and then have 2 or 3 people traded and be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have uploaded. But it is what it is. So thanks for listening, guys. If you made it all the way through, this was a long one this week, so I'll talk to you guys either next week or in 2 weeks. So peace.